It's so quiet in here. It must be time to start. Hey, Scott Taylor, can you come here for just a second? I need to ask you a question just before we get started. Sidebar. Uh-oh. No internet. Yours wasn't saying that, was it? Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. Wasn't that nice?
Just a way to say thanks for all we do.
Oh. I'm in airplane mode. All right. All right, we'll begin. Welcome to our city council meeting, this first one of 2019. Did I say that year right? Yep, 2019. Still getting used to it. Don't write as many checks, otherwise I'd be writing 2018 for at least a month. Remember those? Checks. Okay, we are just missing council member Randall. She is ill today. We send our best wishes to her. I hope she gets feeling better. And let's begin, if we could. First of all, we have with us Tim Martin, who I believe is still the secretary of the St. George Area Interfaith Council, who will offer an invocation.
Permanent secretary.
Permanent. How do you
Yeah.
get that kind of a gig?
When we set it up, I made myself permanent secretary because I know he who controls the agenda controls the world.
There you go.
But we are changing officers, and we did that the first of the year. So for the next 3 years, the St. George Interfaith Council president will be Rabbi Helene Einbinder from Beit Shavarim, and her vice president is Carol Drake from St. George Catholic Church.
Excellent.
So we've got the Jewish and the Catholics and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints represented on the presidency. The prayers that get offered, by the way, people volunteer, and then I arrange who is actually going to come and speak, offer the prayer, whatever they want to do. Just so you know, the list of people who want to offer those prayers grows. It used to be Alex Wilkie and Jimmy Keston, and now our goal was to have about 35% from the LDS Church, because that is a pretty big number, and I couldn't reach that because there were so many other churches that wanted to participate. So it's been a great thing for the Interfaith Council. They truly enjoy coming, and the support that we get from you as the City Council, the mayor, at our events. Our next event is Thursday, May 2nd, the National Day of Prayer Breakfast at 7:30, and Bishop Solis from the Catholic Diocese of Utah will be coming down from Salt Lake City to speak to us. He's our keynote speaker. So we'll have a great year. It'll be great fun.
Well, we'll be there if we can. I'll get a table, so you
That'll
let
be
me
great.
know.
Okay, will do. Please join me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, as we begin this new year here in the city of St. George, we are so thankful for our situation in life. We're thankful for the beauty that surrounds us. We're thankful for the weather that we enjoy. We're thankful for the good friendships and the closeness that we feel, for the spirit of a small city that exists. And we pray that we might do all that we can to make all feel welcome and loved in this wonderful community that we are part of. We pray a blessing this day upon the city council, the city manager, the mayor, the attorney, that they might be inspired by thee as they make these decisions, as they think about and discuss the affairs of our city. We're so thankful for their dedicated effort, for the hard work that gets put in, and we pray that that will help them know how much their efforts are appreciated. At this season of the year, we pray a blessing upon those who are ill, that they might be comforted, that they might be able to return quickly and accomplish all that they want to. Now we ask thy spirit of friendship and cooperation in this meeting and all those things that take place in the city of St. George. And these things we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Tim. If all would rise, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. We don't have any other pre-agenda items. What I'd like to do, though, is, Adam, can you just comment on a couple of changes to the agenda, and then we'll talk about maybe the resolution to that.
Let's do that. I'd be happy to. So we do have a few changes from the agenda that was published. First of all, on the consent calendar, item L, that is the local consent for St. George Beverages Silver Reef Brewing Company Super Bowl party. That was removed at the request of the applicant. So that's consent calendar item L. And then we've tried to get the word out on this next change, and hopefully everybody heard about it, but there's a possibility that they haven't. But items 9 and 10, both of these are related to development or proposed development at Stone Cliff. Those items we felt had some procedural deficiencies that we needed to correct, and that is actually being remanded back to the Planning Commission. However, is anyone in attendance for either of those items, 9 or 10? Okay. So, Mayor, where we did notice a public hearing, and we do have as item 1 public comment, I think it would be appropriate to have those individuals speak during item 1, but we would want you to be aware of that is being sent back to Planning Commission. Other than that, there are no other changes.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam. And so, yes, if you're inclined, if you're so inclined, since you're here, you're more than welcome. Those of you that are here and would like to make a few comments, you can do that in the first portion, comments from the public, since officially the other items, actually it's item 9 really, that's got the public hearing, right?
Correct.
If you want to make comments, you can. We'll let you do that at this time, and then we'll go on with the rest of our calendar. I do have one other comment that was a public comment request that was turned in that we'll go to after, if there are any on the Stone Cliff.
Can I just clarify?
Yes,
When that goes back to planning
there will
commission,
be another public
be a
hearing.
public hearing at that point.
That's
also.
correct.
Thank you.
There and here. So you're free to make a comment now, although there will be another public hearing, 2 more. Correct, Sean? So there will be 2 more public hearings, one at Planning Commission, which you would be notified of, as Adam said, and also one at City Council, and you would be notified. So you're more than welcome if you'd like to make a comment now, or you can save that until when you're notified of the future meetings. How do you choose? Would you like to make any comments today, any of you? Please feel free to come forward. If you would, because this is the public comment period, it's a little different than the public hearing. If you would just keep your comments as brief as you can. like maybe 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay,
My name's Calvin Hogard. I live at 1495 South, 2670 East.
thank you.
My only comment at this point, because I don't know a whole lot about this, is just to get on the record to express the need for a signal at 1450 South and 3000 East Street.
Guess what? It's coming very soon.
Good.
In fact, Cameron, where are you? I think we already have the equipment, or most of it, and Cameron will be putting that out, our Public Works Director, to bid to be installed here. I would guess we'd have that one and 2 others on 3000 East at 2000 South, 2450 South, probably all 3 of those done in the next 6 or 7 months.
Probably less, but yes.
Okay.
The sooner the better. It's kinda
We,
dangerous.
well, we agree. They have to be warranted, and so we've been planning on this. They are now warranted, and that's why we'll be installing them shortly. Good question. Any others on the Stone Cliff?
Good evening, council and staff and mayors. My name's Robert J. Anderson. I live at 1450 South, 2618 East, 1540 South Circle in the Views. And I have concerns about the traffic that would come from the property as developed, the control measures for them, and there's a very small, narrow right-of-way at the lower street, and it looks like it would be what's called a hammerhead, and those are very, very difficult to sweep. My concerns for the traffic would be loss of property value, safety, because the road, the 2670 that comes up is one of the steepest in the community, and being able to see around those corners with even the small amount of traffic that's there is extremely difficult. Anybody parking on the street forces virtually a significant emotional experience when they come around the corner. So I would appreciate those considerations forwarded to the Planning Commission, and I would like to see a more detailed plan of what actual traffic is available and what the criteria for passing through the Views subdivision would be. Pending your questions, that concludes my comments.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll note that, and our staff is also here, so they'll note it as well.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members.
Evening.
My name is Mike Hudson. I live at 2630 East, 1540 South Circle. And I looked at the council packet online to see what the lot layout was. It appears that at the end of 1540 South is a cul-de-sac within the proposed development that connects to 1540 South. My assumption is that that is going to be for emergency access only, and it is not the intent to take traffic out of this annexation to Stone Cliff through our street.
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the second concern I had is the hammerhead that was previously mentioned. It appears, looking at the lot layout, with a long, slender, rectangular lot carved out of one of these proposed lots, that the intent is to just put a hammerhead at the end of 1500 South. I would like to see a cul-de-sac extended onto 1540, not with the intent of access for Stone Cliff, but to finish that street off more appropriately than what a hammerhead does. And to echo Calvin's comments about the signal at 1450 and 3000, yeah, I'm sure that it meets warrants for traffic accidents as well as delays at least a couple of times during the day. And it's even worse now with the construction going on. So I'm glad to see that somebody has looked at the warrant analysis and determined that traffic signals at that location and others are warranted. Thank you.
Thank you. So noted.
Hi, my name is George Ficklin. I live in the Views at Stone Mountain. 1486 South, 2670 East is my address. I too am concerned about the traffic up that roadway. It's rather steep and on a curve. And if you get any on-site or parking on the street at all, it really becomes dangerous for anybody traveling up or down that road. I was wondering, is there any possibility to gain access to this new area off of 1450? Besides just the one street, all those houses having to access up and down there, like I said, really becomes congested. And then additional comments, I filled out a little form there concerning that
Yep.
3,000, 1450. It's good to know that something is being done, but has anybody ever thought about putting a roundabout in there? Roundabouts are great, keeps the traffic moving. You don't need to put the stoplight in or a traffic light.
We could probably have Cameron address that. We do look at those things. We try to look at either or, but maybe when you're finished, we'll let our Public Works Director address that.
Yeah, anybody making a right turn off of 1450 blocks the view of any of the traffic coming down 3000. And boy, you take your life in your hands sometimes. I don't know if anybody's speeding out there. I don't have radar, but they come around
No
the
one
end of
ever
that.
speeds in St. George.
Yeah, I know. Nobody speeds. But it really blocks the view of anybody that wants to make a left turn onto 3000. And people just coming around that corner bad, but a roundabout slows the traffic down and where you can continue moving the traffic. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
John, do you want to try to address the first concern just for a moment, since a couple have asked about that?
I'll talk about the main access is off 1450 south, and then it connects up with the existing Stone Cliff around the edge. The subdivision
The view?
just adjacent is a roundabout and it's emergency only. I'm not sure where the hammerhead is. There is a stub road here that'll access this property, but I'm not seeing a hammerhead on the plan.
Well, this will give us some time to look at that, and we'll
Yeah.
just be prepared to talk about it when it comes back at the Planning Commission and at City Council. Thanks, John. Cameron, why don't you tell us about the roundabout versus traffic signal?
Will do. That intersection, 1450 South and 3000 East, is one where we're actually trying to get realigned to make it a four-way intersection, because that's a main corridor potentially in the future to be able to tie to Southern Parkway, SR7 on the east side, all the way to I-15 and Dixie Drive on the west side, and further up Dixie Drive. And so in the past, now we have not looked at a roundabout specifically right there. We could always run a model and see what it comes out as. What we've done in the past is when we get too much traffic, a roundabout then starts to get congested and gets bottled up and doesn't work very good. And so the signal is actually the solution to a roundabout that gets congested. And so, yeah, I'll take a look at it. I haven't looked at the numbers exactly for a roundabout for the future, but we usually look at like 30 years out in the future to see what would be the fix. If a roundabout works today, but a signal works later on, we usually put the signal in so we don't have to change it twice. But
Usually
we can always-
talking about $250,000 for either,
Mhm.
somewhere around that, $250,000 to
Yep.
$300,000, right?
Yep.
So you kind of want to do that once if you can, instead of twice.
Yeah,
Which you're basically saying the signal is probably the long-term solution.
Yeah, the roundabout usually requires more right-of-way, especially if you get a lot of traffic on either side or all the legs of the intersection. It requires quite a bit more traffic as it becomes a dual-lane roundabout.
We've also had some issues with, and I don't know how this road will be, but I expect we might have some trucks going through there, and that's where we've run into the most difficulties I've found anyway on the Bloomington roundabout,
That's
is
right.
with the big trucks.
That's right.
That's where it tends to fail. So anyway, but thank you, appreciate the information. Any others that would like to make comments on the Stone Cliff item? We realize it's a little awkward, but thank you for your patience. Thank you for making your comments today, and you will be notified, those of you that are within the required distance, and we'll have further public comment available. whenever it reaches Planning Commission and the council again. Okay. Those are all the forms that I had turned in. No one else wanted to make any public comment before we move on? Okay. Adam, let's go ahead. One item on the consent calendar, I don't think we need to necessarily pull anything off, but Councilman Baca just asked if Scott Taylor could maybe respond just briefly on item E, that'd be 2E, regarding this considering of an updated regional water supply pooling agreement with the Washington County Water Conservancy District. Would you just address that? You basically indicated in the text there that the proposed changes to the agreement are considered minor, do not significantly change the terms and intent of the agreement. Just comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little history. If you recall, back in about 2004, 2005, we had just finished doubling the size of our water treatment plant at Quail Creek. And at that time, the only water that was available to buy for the treatment plant was a block of 10,000 acre-feet of water. So we were about to the point of having to purchase that additional 10,000 acre-feet of water. We just doubled the size of our treatment plant. So at that time, we kind of teamed up with the Conservancy District and other communities around and joined what we call the pooling agreement. That's the water supply agreement. What that did is basically the treatment plant went to the Conservancy District. They provided the water rather than us having to purchase that 10,000 acre-foot block of water. And also at that time, the responsibility of securing additional water for future need fell on the Conservancy District. So at that time, our impact fee changes to where we do not collect impact fees for the source of water, but the Conservancy District collects that impact fee. So that's what that original pooling agreement was that was signed back in 2006. And with any agreement, as you know, as time goes on, you kind of find out what the little problems with the original agreement were. Not necessarily big problems, but just minor tweaks. And so this is what that is. 12 years after the first agreement was signed, there's several tweaks that we're just addressing. None of them really significant. I've given a summary of what I consider 8 of the most significant changes, and none of them are really drastic changes.
Any questions, Ed, or other council members? Thank you, Scott. So,
With that, and with respect to the consent calendar, I would just note for the audience that these items are administrative in nature. We've run them through staff to make sure they comply with all of our regulations. We have found that they do, and so we would recommend to council that these items be approved as presented, with the exception of item L, which was removed.
ready for a motion
I'll
then.
go ahead and make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item L, with one comment. 220 days till school starts, Cameron. A and B are very important. I'm glad to see them on here, but we have 220 days. So I would minus 30 days so we can be done 30 days early. We better get busy.
Cameron's on it.
Thank you.
He's talking about 2450 South extension that will take us to the new Crimson
View.
Cliffs or View.
Is it Crimson View?
Cliffs?
Cliffs.
Ridge.
Ridge.
It's not Ridge.
No.
North, south, east, or west?
Anyway.
The
high
Mustangs.
school.
It's the Mustangs, right?
New high school.
We have a motion by Jimmy and a second by Betty to approve the consent calendar items with the exception of item 2L. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Item 3 is a public hearing and consideration of a resolution for an update to the water conservation plan. You previously saw this not too long ago, in fact, and we wanted to have the council adopt this by resolution. And so for that purpose, we have brought it back to you to consider and to rehold the public hearing.
You remember this, council? We talked about it. We talked about it in a work meeting first, and then we brought it to a regular meeting, but we didn't adopt it by resolution.
And the state has asked.
And the
that
state
we
has
do
asked
that.
that we do it that way. So at this point, I will open the public hearing in case there is anyone here who's come to offer input on this item regarding the water conservation plan. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for any questions, input, or a motion if you're so inclined.
Mayor, I would move that we approve the resolution adopting the update to the water conservation plan.
Second.
I have a motion by Betty with a second by Joe. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this resolution, adopting this resolution, starting with Betty, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. The resolution's adopted.
That brings us to the land use portion of our agenda. We'll turn the time over to Wes.
Okay, item 4 is a request to consider amending the final subdivision plan for Coral Desert subdivision. Phase 2 amended and extended located at 1450 East and approximately 800 South. So the request is, the original subdivision plat went down to about right there, to that line there, included 2 lots, Lot 1 and Lot 2, and then this was the dedicated extension of 1450 East down to here. The request now is to vacate that portion, making this the new alignment of, oh, what the heck? Making this, sorry about that. Making this the new alignment here, and then splitting Lot 2 into these 2 lots and adding Lot 4. So it's a public hearing because they're vacating the road alignment. We met with Parks. One of the concerns that Parks had was the location of the trail. Cameron and I met with them. They really would like to have the trail over here in this area and not alongside the road here. And so we'll have to look to work out something with getting that trail through there.
The problem with that is the trail is going to be on the other side of the wash when you go under the road to the north.
You're going to have 2 crossings, and we talked to them about that, you know, because you'll come underneath here into
Yeah.
this parking lot, so you'll have 1 crossing there, then you come down here, and then you'll go through the open space area, and then you'll come here and have to cross again to get to the wash. They really expressed a strong desire to keep it here because of having a trail more of it in an open space area. Felt like that was a better experience for those using the trail than pushing it along this westerly side over here.
So let me ask you this, Wes and Adam and Sean, anything that we would potentially do tonight by approving this, would it cause us any problems either way? Because I don't want us to run into a problem.
If the trail gets pushed over to this side, it will affect the alignment of the road because it'll have to push this way to the east. And so it'd have to be adjusted some.
I'm just not sure. It's not easy to, even a wash, you know, it costs money to cross a wash and to do that a couple times. As it is, we're going to have to replace those box culverts going under Foremaster to continue this. So I don't know. I guess I'm not sure we can always have the trail right where we want it.
Right.
I don't know where, I wasn't in on this discussion, but any thoughts? Those of you that were? Sean, were you in on that, or Adam? Or I just, you know what I mean?
I guess their one concern too was they felt like coming through here, you would have a crossing across the driveway right here that leads into this new building right here, and another crossing here. And so they felt like you'd get too many crossings for a trail along that westerly side, and felt like the offset, yeah, they realized they'd had 2 crossings here, but you would have 3 here, and felt like this would provide a better trail for them.
Well, but again, we're trying to make these active transportation trails so
Yeah.
you can have access to those properties, those commercial properties. So
You would have a sidewalk on that side still
Yeah.
as you go down there.
Sean?
We had a
comments?
pretty good debate
Yeah, we
about this,
did.
didn't we?
Mhm.
Because.
Sorry, I missed it, but
Well, it was, who else was with us? I know there were a few of us in that meeting.
Yeah, I think,
I don't know if Cam was in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was you, me, and Cam. And here are the concerns. You're right, if it stays on the, I would say, west side of the wash, that it would make that accessible to the businesses and on that side. We tend not to think, because we're attorneys and engineers, like our parks people, who are looking out for an enjoyable experience, and we're looking at utility alone and liability. I would say this, though. If we decide that we're going to construct that trail and cross over to the east side, that we are saving the developer of this property the cost of installing a sidewalk on one side of those roadways. Technically, we require a sidewalk on both sides. And we could say, if the developer's willing to put some money towards the construction of that trail there, then maybe we might consider that. We had the concerns of the crossings, we had the concerns of the access. The feeling of the parks planners was this was a trail that people were going to use to get down to the trail along the Virgin River. And,
for sure.
And so
Yeah.
that would be their main focus, and they could they could decide to stay on the street and go with the sidewalk, but there's going to have to be a crossing, and there was no way we could avoid a crossing when we took a look at it.
So we're saying east side of the wash.
East side of the wash, but the trail comes out on the west side from the hospital, so there has
That's
to be
right.
a crossing.
Right.
And so that's.
And I'm okay. I just wanted to make sure all the discussion had happened, because you guys are way smarter at this than I am, at least. But I'm office. My other job, that one I go to sometimes, is right adjacent to this. So I think it's going to be a great amenity and connection to the hospital trail.
I think the three of us probably decided that we thought it was best on the west overall.
Did
That's
you?
what we decided, yes. But we, Cameron says, go back and talk to the parks planning staff, because obviously we want their input on that.
Assuming we do this tonight, I mean, we could make it work either way. We might have to make some changes, but correct?
Could we, I guess the question is, can we approve it subject to that alignment of that road having the ability to alter a little bit?
We could do that, and also the contribution towards the trail instead of.
And that's what Jimmy and I
other
were
infrastructure.
We're both kind of wondering too. I think that would make sense if they're not having to pay for one of the sidewalks.
Right.
Because you still have the grand hurdle of Foremaster getting it, however that's going to happen.
We're going to go under.
That's
Right.
true. Well, but you're saying to get across that property.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and I will say that I believe, always envisioned that there would be a four-way intersection down at Riverside Drive where it would access our park, so that would take the roadway over to their side of the property. Their hope was that it would make that corner developable right there along the mountainside. So they might be willing to do some horse trading with us in order to make that happen in the future.
Good. Thanks for going through that with us. If that wasn't clear to everyone, I don't blame you. But we're trying to be wise as we make some of these land development decisions, and as it ties to not only our roads but our trails as part of our recreation and our transportation system. So, council, do you have any other questions? Otherwise, go ahead. Any questions on this?
Well, let's hear the public hearing first, and then we have a couple.
Okay, is that okay, Ed?
Sure.
All right, then I'll open the public hearing for any who may have come to provide input or ask questions on item 4. You don't dare touch that one, do you? After all that mess I created. Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council. Questions, comments?
I'm probably as confused as everybody else is on this. And if we're putting so many stipulations on, do we really want to vote on this tonight? I'm concerned about
Well-
There seems to be a lot of ifs.
I think there's only two.
And really, if you don't feel like this is too new for you tonight to make a decision on which side of the road you think it would work best on, you want more information from our Public
Parks
Works
and-
as well as Parks on the pros and cons, well, we can certainly bring it back then, because I think that's the biggest question. If you answer that question, then we can narrow down those stipulations on this.
I mean, that's why I asked it too, Joe, just because, if we don't, if it's not too difficult to put in those stipulations, great, but if we're going to be having to change the alignment anyway, I know, it's up to you, council, or Jimmy.
Well, and I'm pretty comfortable with the staff figuring that out, but if we want to
Me
wait to
too.
bring it back, I'm okay with that, but I just think they could figure it out.
I do
And
too.
I would just want to give the instruction that Sean makes sure we get the better horse when we're done. Horse trading,
All right, I'll make sure.
so,
And Mayor, my question would be.
but, sorry, go ahead. Ed.
Go ahead.
No, I was,
You're on a roll.
but
Go
if we
ahead.
need to wait to get everybody a better handle on it and come back with a good plan, I'm okay with that too. But I'm pretty confident in the staff that they could get it right now that they know what our
They know our
concerns are.
concerns. Yeah.
I'm good with you.
And I would just pose a question to Wes for the public and those at home listening, so that we have a real clear, we get the street addresses, but sometimes it's difficult for us to see where this exact location is, so.
Across the street to the south from the hospital.
Right from the hospital where the crosswalk is, everybody knows that, and this would extend all the way down south, almost all the way down to Riverside. And my other input on that, so people know exactly where it's at, would be, there might be a need to have a road connection, a connectivity in the future from Four-Master all the way down to Riverside. This will not impact it, I know it's a trail system, but I just want to make sure.
No, this is it.
Right, so this will get us down to 900, and
Okay,
then we'll
so
extend it
maybe we need
like that.
that
down to
roadway
Riverside.
to get us from Four-Master
Right.
down to Riverside to
Right.
alleviate some of that congestion we have. That's what is really critical, okay?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what this is doing, correct?
It gets us halfway.
At least
and then
halfway.
we need to get from 900
Gets us
down
to
Riverside.
900. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's going to be important, Ed. You're right. I mean, there's going to be a lot of traffic coming down there. One of the next traffic signals, by the way, will be at Four-Master and Medical Center Drive coming up shortly, right, Cameron? That's one that the bases and conduits already in, and that'll help us regulate that traffic a bit, turning onto Medical Center Drive or onto Four-Master. So, okay.
After all the comments were made, I understand what Jimmy was referring to. I'm comfortable with it, with staff's position on this thing, and I would have no problem with making a motion to approve it.
And do you want to just
but
say?
if that's up, if the rest of the council wants more time to evaluate it, I'm
Well,
good with
you
that.
can make the motion, but the stipulation, anything?
Yeah, I'm going to need your help, Wes, on the conditions.
The condition would be resolving the location of the trail as it may adjust the alignment of the road itself.
Also, that if
And
the
in
trail
the-
is moved over to
Right.
the east side, that they would contribute.
Participate in the,
That's right.
cost to
Are you
construct that
comfortable
trail.
having those two items be part of your motion?
Yes, absolutely.
So we have a motion by Ed. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, item 5 is a request to consider vacating the an ordinance to vacate stub roads located off Bandit Hills Drive as those turnouts do not line up with current planned development. So this is 3000 Southern Hills Drive, road up to the airport. So when this was dedicated, Bandit Hills, they dedicated these entrances right here and here and here. They're vacating these two, I believe this one and all 5 of them, as these two don't line up, as these are just big lots right here that won't need these, so they'll have driveways in. But these two and this one do not line up with their developments, and so they need to vacate them. Then they'll come back in and they plat these subdivisions here, and they'll provide the access to those subdivisions.
Clear as mud, council? Okay.
Are you, oh, Ready?
Got to do a public
Oh.
hearing. All right, if there are no questions or comments at this point, I'll open the public hearing for anyone in the audience who may have come to provide input on this item, number 5. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and now I'll come back to you for a motion or any discussion first.
Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion to vacate the stub roads located off of Bandon Hill Drive.
Second.
They do not line up.
I have a motion by Betty with a second by Joe. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion of this ordinance vacating the stub roads as has been explained to us, starting with Betty this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thanks.
Item number 6. It's a public hearing in consideration of an ordinance amending the planned development commercial zone for Dino Crossing Commercial Center, which is a Smith's shopping center, to develop Pad G on approximately 3/4 of an acre. So this is the subdivision, commercial subdivision for the entire Smith Center. Smith store is about in here in Lot 1. And we're looking at this blue area, which is Lot 8, and there's Pad G in it. And then this is just reference. This goes back to 2015 when the whole site conceptually was approved. And here's Smith's Marketplace, here's the fuel center, and here's proposed Pad G tonight to the City Council. A closer look at that, again, Pad G. And this is the overall site plan that's proposed tonight to have this 6,500 square foot pad. It's a multi-tenant building that's proposed to go in here, and then the parking in front of it, and then you can see Dinosaur Crossing and a road here. And this is just conceptually the layout showing the building, and again, conceptually the landscaping around it. And all of the dark is the asphalt. In your packet and on a screen are some three-dimensional renderings and then some two-dimensional drawings of the building. Honestly, it looks very much like what's out there, so that it stays with the same theme and same colors and same materials that the Smith Marketplace has previously been approved for. The color and materials board is here on the counter also. But you can see the articulation, the earth tones, the cultured stone, the rock, and how it is designed on all views. The height is about 28 feet. And again, here's a materials board that's on a counter before you. That basically is it. Let me jump to the staff report. We do have a representative here tonight, Cameron Dorman, who can answer questions, but what you're looking at is to amend the planned development commercial zone on Lot 8, Pad G, and you would be looking at the site plan, the landscape plan, the elevations, the renderings, the colors, the materials for, again, one multi-purpose building. And I won't read everything in here. Staff's looked at the parking and the landscaping and the colors and materials. Under parking, I do have here in the case file a plan, and basically it shows every lot, every pad in that center, and they met and exceeded the minimum standards for the city for parking. They have an agreement for the whole center, and they actually have 55 more spaces than is required, so we consider that a good thing. There's room to work, and we'll look at anything that's proposed in the front and the future for uses. And what I'm alluding to is they have a drive-through here. It could be for a pharmacy, which could be 1 to 250 parking, or it could be some kind of a drive-through restaurant. But we'll check and make sure that the parking meets it when that comes in. But we're not seeing any issues or problems, is what I'm saying at this point. So the Planning Commission does recommend approval. I'm looking at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3, and they have some comments there, 8 items that they recommend with the approval. Most of them are pretty standard, that they'll meet the setbacks, they'll meet the lighting, they'll meet the layout as presented to you tonight, and that they'll go through the civil engineering plan review process. And that concludes staff's comments.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions, council?
Yeah, Ray, I brought this up in planning commission, and I unfortunately can't remember what ended up happening. I still have a concern that even though we have enough parking for the entire area, that whoever moves into that building doesn't have to have their customers parked clear up on Riverside Drive. So my question was at the time, how close does that parking have to be to qualify as far as distance?
Well, we see parking shared between the 2 businesses here. I think this
Right.
is Panda and the proposed one here. Really, we're looking at, they could be walking probably this distance here. And for the overall entire site, you've got 55 extras, so
Right. I guess
they
my
do have
question-
26 here that they need, but again, you have 2 businesses close by. This one also has this.
And if you put a restaurant in that G, then that would change that requirement, wouldn't it?
For the number of spaces,
Uh-huh.
for one of the units, we'd have to look at the individual square footage for it and what it requires.
I'd just like to see us somehow say that the parking meets the requirement if it's within 100 feet or 200 feet or something like that. I don't know what the answer is there. It just,
Well,
looks
currently,
like it
I don't
could
think
be.
we have a standard that states the distance.
No, we don't expect. If you think about like the mall, for instance, they all just share the parking.
Right.
We haven't required any signage, but it's something we could look at doing, where if each one of these buildings has to have a circle that these are the ones that they count, these are the ones they count, we could do that,
so we don't count them all
yeah.
for each building.
And with a site like this, where you have all of the buildings on the exterior
yeah.
and the parking in the middle, I don't get concerned about this. I get worried when you have pockets of parking around and they want to count a portion of this pocket
Yeah.
to count. That's when I get concerned. But a shopping center like this, where you have all the buildings on the exterior and large parking in the middle, usually it works fairly well.
Thank you.
So, Joe, not a bad concern. I mean, what worries me is if you have too many, wildly popular drive-through fast food restaurants, like we might have in other places, and it's just fouls up the whole thing. So, but it's tough. I don't know how you really protect against that. We know right here, I mean, it doesn't look like they've got those plans. It's not part of the layout. So, but it's, when you think of some of the popular drive-through restaurants in town. Yep. Anyway, it meets the current requirement, so. Ed?
Mayor, I'd just make a comment that earlier the public has expressed quite a bit of interest in signal lights and traffic lights. And this particular location too, where lot pad G would be, to be on that, on this map here, it shows where Smith's is. It says a future road, but that's on the south side. The Cameron's going to be working on putting a signal light there almost right next to pad G, so that this traffic issues that's confronting all of us trying to get about town, that it is being addressed. And I just wanted to make sure the public knew that and that we were aware of it.
That'll come in the future, right, Cameron? This next year-ish? Yeah. Yeah. So then that's it. What's it called? River's Edge? No. That street that hits Small Drive. That's what you're talking about, Ed?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about another one.
The south side, the one that goes back into the,
Make sure we're talking about the right
Yeah,
intersection.
the signal that's actually coming will be Dinosaur Crossing and Mall Drive right
Dinosaur
here.
Crossing.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. I think we've got like 6 traffic signals or maybe one possible roundabout in various stages of planning right now that'll probably happen in this calendar year. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay.
And this particular site's getting a lot of
Yeah.
attention. Mall Drive's a very busy
Mall,
street.
3 on Mall Drive, oh, sorry, 3 on 3000 East, 1 on Mall Drive, and 1 over on Snow Canyon Parkway. So, and then Medical Center Drive and Foremaster. Okay. Any other comments, council, before I open the public hearing? I'll open the public hearing then for any who may have come to express input on item 6 on our agenda. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for any further discussion or for your action.
Motion to approve the ordinance amending the PDC for Dino Crossing Commercial Center for the development of Pad G to include the comments and conditions of the Planning Commission.
Second.
Excellent. We have a motion by Jimmy, second by, I think it's Betty this time. Any discussion on the motion? I love these PD commercials because so much work has already been done. It's all in alignment or agreement with what has been planned, and the signage is already included, so no surprises. All in favor of the motion, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item number 7, we have a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance amending a PDC plan development, commercial development for the Desert Color Town Center, and this is for the Sullivan Homes office building located just east of I-15. Here's an aerial for you to see. East of I-15, north of Black Mountain Drive. Location, and this is the general plan, which is TC for Town Center, which this does fit in with the general plan. The zoning is PDC, as I mentioned before. Here's a close-up of the site plan. We've got an office building that's going to be a little over, 5,000 square feet office space when it's completed. The I-15 is up here, and this is Black Mountain Drive down here. The parking data, we do require one space for 250 square feet. They're providing 66 spaces, 62 are required. This is an aerial showing the site plan, which is this building here for the Sullivan office building, along with the Big Shots golf center that's going in. So it's going to be just basically south of it. There will be some more development in between. This is kind of a shot of it with the aerial. As you can see, there's some space in between that will be filled up with an additional buildings in the future. Here's some aerials for you to see elevations. Sorry, not aerials. Here, this is what you'll be looking at. I-15 is right here. So if you're heading south on I-15, this is what you're going to see. It is the front of the building. And if you're heading north, you will see this area right here, and then that little bit of this side. Pretty much all 4 sides are very well designed so that you can't really tell which is front and which is back. So here, if you're on Black Mountain Drive, this is what you will be seeing. And then from the Hot Shots golf area, this is what you'll be seeing from there. Let's see, this material boards, we do have a material board up here. If anyone would like to look at it personally, you just let me know. I'll grab it for you. And this is kind of a street view. This is Black Mountain Drive, and this is what it will look like. The building will be right about there. It's kind of hard to tell out there because it's just all fields, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
But we did present this to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission did recommend approval. There were a couple conditions, which I will mention. The one condition is that the Desert Color Town Center Development Agreement be executed and recorded. And the second condition was that Spine Roadway Agreement be executed and recorded as well. And staff does recommend approval of this. And the applicant is here if you have questions for him, and if you have any questions for me, I'm available.
Planning
Right.
Commission recommended it.
Yes, with a couple, the two conditions.
Right. Questions, council?
I can't see who the applicant is on my paperwork. Maybe-
Sullivan.
Sullivan? I know. Is it affiliated with Burgess Group?
I couldn't
I
answer
don't-
that one, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Just the builder? Okay.
You can ask the applicant.
Let's hear from the applicant
Okay.
before we do a public hearing.
Appreciate your time. Bob Hermanson with Bush and Gudgel. So this is Sean Sullivan's office building, home builder, local home builder here in town. He will be heavily involved in Desert Color and is one of the builders that's currently going to go into Auburn Hills that you've seen come through here recently. And what was the specific question on that?
Well, I just wondered who the builder was on that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had Burgess' name in my mind somewhere
Well-
involved in this, so I just wanted to connect the dots.
Sure.
So,
This building was very similar to a Burgess building that Brett brought in.
Oh, that's
A few
right.
months ago.
Right.
Yep.
It was very similar design characteristics, and so they ended
They
up
changed
changing
it.
that one entirely,
That's
and this
what it
one
was.
remained the same.
Okay,
Yep.
now-
That's why you're,
Okay.
good memory, that's what it was, yep.
I got her now.
Yep, you got it, yep.
So you made the adjustment.
The switch, yep, so they ended up changing it up, yep.
Okay, now I got it. Mayor, you,
Anything else? Any other questions or anything else you need us to know, Bob?
No, she did great. It just
Okay.
described it very well. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
It's really nice when we can see a digital rendering of the building on the site. That's helpful. Thank you. Okay, I'll open the public hearing for anyone who may have come to offer input on item 7 on our agenda today. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action or questions if you have any.
Yeah, and another item that we did cover in planning commission, but it's been so long ago, I can't remember what we resolved. The area directly west of that, or south of that lot, there's a little triangle there that's like no man's land.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to see that turn into a weed patch. See where your red line is there?
Yeah, just south of that.
Just south of that, where that road curves around between there and I-15.
Yep. And so it's just directly south. It's not it's not in between the parcel and I-15. The intent there is that Black Mountain Drive will be abandoned right there, and that's actually all going to be parking lot in the future. The utilities will remain there; they're existing. Now will all be parking lot in the future phases as we develop in every direction, but this specifically to the south.
So that will be a dead end there?
Well, what we're going to do is just one intersection back. Let's see here. There we go. Right here will be the roundabout. There'll be a very large roundabout right here, and we'll have a new bridge that goes over the wash here, Bridge 3. And this will stop here, this road that's existing now, which is dedicated to where it's paved, which will all be parking lot. The sidewalk, curb and gutters, those things will be removed, but all of that will be parking lot. And so this, correct, and that'll be included in the parking lot is the triangle, yep. So it'll all be taken care of. Yep.
With the road ending there, it won't create a triangle anymore.
Correct.
In essence.
You're right, yep.
Thank you.
Good clarification. Any other questions? Otherwise, ready for a motion.
I would make a motion that we approve the ordinance amending the PDC zone for Desert Color Town Center to include the Sullivan Homes office building with the recommendations of the staff.
second.
I have a motion by Joe, second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Jimmy, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. I'm glad it was unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Next item on the agenda is item 8, public hearing and consideration of an ordinance changing a zone from open space to R110, single-family residential, 10,000 square foot minimum lot size, for Maple Estates Phase 6, and it's on .16 acres. This is the same area that you looked at earlier in the agenda for council item number 5, Banded Hills. And we're talking about this little triangular piece of property right here. And again, an aerial view approximately right in here. Again, Bandit Hills Drive. And this shows the zoning. It's R1, I'm sorry, it's open space there right in here, the little triangular piece. And you can see surrounding it is all R110. And this just shows the meets and bounds and shows the property. And they would like to change that open space in a triangular area to R110, and then I believe they incorporate all of this area to create another lot here in the future. And again, this is just showing a close-up. And as I was just mentioning, you follow the arrow here and you can see the outline of what they're trying to accomplish. And you can see superimposed on here future lots that would go around this area. I think it's off Banded Hills. I don't know if they'll have a circular driveway, but we'll have to look at that, staff. That basically is it. That is the request. And I think I've covered everything in the staff report. Planning Commission did look at it and does recommend approval.
Other questions, council?
I just have something floating in my mind, Mayor. Let me just ask. Is there going to be a fire station around this general area out there? Do we have any?
You know, I don't know. Wes or John, do you happen to know?
Well, pretty close.
Yep.
Down around just off of, well, it connects to Commerce. That connects to Little, is it Little Valley
Will that
Road?
be the one?
Yep.
Here's Little Valley Road.
Yeah, so we're really close. It's right, and then take a, yep, right in there.
Somewhere here. Okay.
So yeah, they'll have a good location. That's the one, of course, you know, Ed, and we're working on the property issue and the road issue and the design of the fire station.
Yeah, I just got my note. I just wanted to.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then I'll open the public hearing for this item. Number 8, if anyone's come to offer input on this. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action. Jimmy's leaving it to you, Joe.
That's because Jimmy doesn't ever want to change open space, right?
No, he's just trying to take turns.
Okay, well, I would move that we have the ordinance changing zone from open space to R110 for Maple Hills Estates Phase 6 on .16 acres.
Second.
Motion by Joe, with a second by Ed. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Thanks, Joe, for acknowledging that.
All right. I was wondering there for a minute, Jimmy. Okay, let's see, we're going to 11, correct?
Yes, jumping up to 11. Okay, this is a building design and conceptual site plan case where we will be considering an addition to the stay Georgetown condos. The total area is about 2.86, and it is located at 175 South, 1000 East. Here's an aerial of the location, just west of I-15, east of the college, Dixie State. And you can see the zoning. We've got R4. Typically, this is mainly student housing. Typically, they'd have the student housing zoning, but they do have R4, so they follow the R4 regulations. And here's oops, I think nope, that's it. Okay, here's just a close-up, zoomed way in on the site. We've got I-15 over here. This is how it looks right now. There's a tennis court right here, and we've got a couple storage buildings on the north side and the south side. They'll be removing all of these items that have the X over them to put in the new units. They plan on putting 5 units in the north section, 2 units down in the south. This is the site plan that was provided. It's a little hard to see, but here's the 5 units and 2 units down here. Here's kind of what it would look like on the site. They'll just get rid of all that, put those units in there, and the 2 units down here. With this change, they will be required to meet the regulations, which do require 1 covered parking and 1 uncovered parking. The site itself does not, it's considered a grandfathered site in that it was developed before the regulations for covered and uncovered parking. So they will be required, what we require right now is that at least the new units do meet that requirement, which they will be putting in 7 covered stalls, and they will be adding additional parking, uncovered parking. They will also be adding some landscaping in around these new units. Here's a table kind of showing what's required with the existing development and with the new units. They will have plenty of parking, as I mentioned before. I think they're about 10 or 11 stalls, uncovered stalls short for the entire development, but they will be adding in those new 7 covered stalls, so they should be fine there. They will keep in the existing landscaping that's along I-15. There's a few trees in there. They'll be keeping that, and then adding additional landscaping. As I mentioned before, you can kind of see the trees and shrubbery that they'll be putting in. The elevations, the way it's going to look is the applicant would like to match it up with what's existing. This is showing a little off on the number of units, but this is what the existing units look like. There's kind of a tan color or a brick color, and then the gray color. This is, what the units look like right now. Here's another view of the units, and the applicant is basically going to match the building style and design with the materials used on the existing buildings. We did bring this before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did recommend approval. There were 3 conditions. That they meet all the setback requirements, which we will do that, make sure that they will comply during the site plan review, and also that they provide the 7 covered parking spaces. The Planning Commission, they did have a final recommendation, and that was that they wanted to make a suggestion to the applicant that the design of the exteriors bring a more modern blend compatible with the with modern times. This is an older complex. Yes, the style is a little outdated. The requirements in the zoning regulations make it so that the new part needs to match the existing development, not necessarily what's going on around the town. So they just wanted to if there's any way that they can update it, give it a little bit more modern flair, they would appreciate that. But other than that,
But we can't require it.
No, we can't require it. It was just a suggestion. But they did recommend approval. Staff does recommend approval as well. Applicant, I believe. Oh, there you go. Yeah, the applicant is here if you have any questions or any questions for me at this time.
Let's hear from the applicant.
I may have missed the comment you made on those red X's.
Oh, yeah, those are going away.
Tell me again what's there now.
These are 2 storage units.
The storage.
Yeah, and then that's a tennis court. They have a requirement, you do have a requirement to put in recreation. They do have an existing pool and
So that fulfills it.
area, and that fulfills it, yes.
Yeah, I caught the tennis courts, kind of caught me because I've seen it looks like the college got some tennis courts over there where East Elementary used to
Yeah, and
be.
there's a park down below, south of it as well.
Thank you.
Hello, I missed that. What were the questions? Oh, Lex, Ents?
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. If there's nothing else you want to say, Lex, then I think we're good.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, yeah.
I think it's wonderful that we're getting more student housing, and I understand the nature of student complexes, so that they have a lot of in and out, and they're utilitarian, and they're designed to make money, and that's good and everything. But I know we can't require, I guess, evidently, the design and look of them, but I don't know. moved my granddaughter into one last year, and I felt horrible that she had to live there. I don't know where it was. I'm not implicating this complex, but I just think we have an obligation not to have a lot of this type of, or that type of building in our city, and we need to maybe look at what we require and what we don't. She didn't stay long either. She's back in Boise. So, you know, I think you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I do.
I would suspect, Betty, that the newer construction will be probably a little nicer than the old just because it'll be brand new.
Correct. Well, and I don't think they have to be luxury. I think we're getting kind of a desperate situation where we have some really, really nice, and I don't know, we just need to have have them all be pleasant, I guess, for lack of another word. I mean,
Well,
something where that you can feel good about coming home and doing your homework and living and existing.
You know, Betty, I was smiling at you because when I seen those renderings and the pictures, I says, wait till Betty sees this. And I appreciate what you're saying. I fully understand what you're saying.
Well, I think one of the things you hope is that as the market has, you know, new facilities available, that some of the older ones will, you know, be remodeled and hopefully be made nicer. If not, then it's going to be harder for them to be appealing, I think.
Well, for instance, you know, one refrigerator for 6 girls, just things like that. I don't know. Dr. Zhivago scene comes to my mind when they say that there are 34 families could fit in his one house. I mean, you know, they're just.
If that was just for men, boys, you wouldn't need that big a fridge.
No, you
Not
wouldn't.
at all. You don't keep ramen in the fridge anyway.
What you need is a bigger sink
Peanut
for all
butter.
the dishes that'll pile up there for the year. Yes, Sean?
You know, Mayor, we had the opportunity to work with Lex on that complex that's over there on 700 South.
Which they did a nice job with.
Oh my gosh! We had to look at our ordinances, and it was just a little bit outside of our student housing zone and what the parking was there. But what we got out and what they promised us to do, they did, and it looks so much better inside and out.
You know what we're
than it did
talking about
before.
there?
And we
the
have
corner of 7th and
we don't have the
7th.
police calls that we had there that we used to. So it really putting the new money into it really brought an older student, what should have been student housing complex, back so that students want to live there, and so they've done a good job.
And these used to be Georgetown apartments. They were all blue.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think they've gone in and they have updated the exterior. Obviously couldn't update the architecture, but they used to be all blue. So they do look much better than they used to look.
Yeah. Good comments, all understood, I think, and I think the applicant is wanting to make it nice, so.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Okay, so any other discussion? This does not require a public hearing, so ready for a motion if you're so inclined.
Mayor, I'll
Yeah.
move to approve the conditional use permit to allow the development of, am I not, sorry.
It's the, 11, the building design and conceptual site
Of course it
plan.
is.
Yep.
Move to approve the building design and conceptual site plan for an expansion of Georgetown condominiums of 7 new units located at 175 South, 1000 East. And they're going to be beautiful.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next item is item 12. Consider a conditional use permit to allow development of a commercial building for a climbing gym on Lot 2 in a Tuscany commercial center, which will exceed 35 feet in height. This shows the area, the vicinity map. Here's Cal Ranch for reference. The site is right down here, and then over here is Costco, road back behind Costco. And again, this is the property right in here that we'll be talking about. Some site views from the street. Here's the property, the site right here. And then as you move a little bit to the east along here, and then if you're looking towards the west, so you can see the surrounding area. Again, Cow Ranch is right here. Again, there's Cow Ranch to the north. This middle view is if you're standing out here looking again to the east and looking to the west, so you get a feel for the buildings that are around it. The general plan is commercial, and the zoning is C3, which is a general commercial zone. And a commercial subdivision, this just shows that it's Tuscany Commercial Subdivision, it's Lot 2. And then here's the proposed conceptual site plan for that Lot 2. And it's showing where the building would be here. The main tallest part of the building is where I'm showing with the arrow. And then there are, out here is a lower level building, which I'll describe in a moment, and one here also. Parking is wrapped around it. 850 North Street is along here. This is just a floor plan. We can come back to this if necessary. And then there's a mezzanine floor plan. These are the two-dimensional elevations looking at the north view of it, the west side, the south, and the east. Again, you can see there's a major portion that's quite tall. This is for the proposed indoor climbing gym, and that is just about 60 feet. I'll show a close-up of the height. The other heights are much lower. Here's renderings that show conceptually what it looked like. Here's the main entrance to the building, and you can see the climbing gym portion in the background. And then there's, again, 1, 2, 3 roofs. I'll be talking about the heights. So the overall very highest peak is 59 feet. You can see how it slopes, 54 feet here. This main entrance is at 33 feet, and then you drop down to 22 feet here. On the table is the same thing I'm showing you on the screen, the color materials board. You can pass it around if necessary. I'm going to jump to the staff report itself. So again, it's a request for what's called contact climbing -yoga -fitness. It's a climbing gym, and it would be the building would be used as a climate-controlled indoor rock climbing gym. The gym will provide exercise, adventure, and related services such as yoga, fitness classes, full set of cardio and fitness equipment, and after-school programs that could have birthday parties, etc. I'm looking at the bottom of the first page, talking about the building size. The footprint of it is 15,500, so it doesn't require a building design conceptual site plan review. However, with this conditional use permit, you accomplish basically the same thing. Because of the height, you're able to look at the building and the landscaping and the parking and all of the issues associated with it. The very bottom of that first page just reiterates the heights that I mentioned.
You got to have the height for the climbing wall, right?
Yes.
About 59 feet. Adam, does that sound right?
Sounds great.
Adam's a climber.
Joe will be right on it.
I'll just lay at the bottom.
So I'm not going to read all of this. I'm jumping to the second page, but I'll just hit on a little bit of it. Although this conditional use permit is for height, in order for Planning Commission City Council to consider the building in their mitigations and findings, the applicant has provided colored elevations, colored materials board for review. It shows here in the report the required setbacks, and you can see under the proposed section it meets and exceeds those. We would double check that, of course, during the site plan review process. Landscaping will comply with Title 10, Chapter 25. And parking requirements, they are required for the main floor to have 62 and the mezzanine 3, and they're right at a grand total of 65 required, and they're providing 71, so they're about 6 spaces over, which is always encouraged. Planning Commission does recommend approval, and the comments are here. Again, the location, the building footprint, layout, site plan, proposed setbacks are recommended for approval as presented. The height is recommended for approval. The Planning Commission talked quite a bit about the height and trying to visualize it in proximity to Cal Ranch, but then they also talked about the fact that there's hotels close by there that would be kind of comparable on the same height, and they felt that this would fit into the area. The design, they liked the design and recommend that for approval, and the colors and materials. It is a conditional use permit, so you do have findings. I'm looking at page 3 and 4 where you go through items A through K. Noise, everything's going to be inside. Dust is not expected to be generated except during construction or odors. Aesthetics, they felt that the building was attractively designed and would complement the area. That's under item D. E, they'll have to meet any safety requirements for federal, state, local ordinances. They didn't feel it was an issue of concern with the traffic for the size of the building and location and the parking provided. Item G is the big one, heights. If you support Planning Commission's recommendation, then you'd be approving a height at 59 feet for the climbing wall portion, 33 feet for the office and retail areas, and 22 feet, the lower is for a yoga area. And you can see the rest, hours of operation, saturation, maintaining character and purpose of the zone and public health, and the Planning Commission was comfortable with those. I won't read page 5, but there is a narrative that goes into much more detail about the climbing facility and what their intent is and where they feel the need is for it. And that concludes staff's comments. The applicant is here also if you have questions for the applicant or would like to hear a little more explanation of what the vision is.
Council, any questions for Ray, first of all?
No, Mayor, but I'd like to hear from this applicant. The climbing seems to have gotten the big feature on it, but I noticed yoga. There's so much interest in yoga in the city of St. George, and there's so many other facilities. So I'd invite him to tell us a little bit more about the yoga aspect of it and how many classes and a little bit more of how you plan to proceed on that.
Any other questions for Ray, first of all? Okay. Yeah, if the applicant would like to come forward. Thank you, Ray.
My name is Jeff Compass, and to answer your question, my wife is a yoga instructor, and climbing and yoga are complementary activities, so there's a lot of training and things that you do to be able to hang on to things tightly, and it's also really good to complement that by push exercises, and so by having an in-house yoga opportunity, then we'll serve the same population. They'll be climbing and doing yoga all with the same membership, so it'll be part of the deal.
Very good. It's kind of cool, exciting stuff. Good location, too.
We think it's great.
Close to Pineview High School there.
Yeah.
They're going to love it.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If there are any comments or discussion, otherwise ready for a motion, Council, on this item 12?
Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve the conditional use permit to allow the development of the commercial building for a climbing gym on Lot 2 of the Tuscany Commercial Center, which will exceed 35 feet in height.
Second.
We have a motion by Ed with a second by Betty. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I just did the virtual tour of the one in Denver, so if it's like that, good luck to you. I hope it works out.
Cool. Hey, before we go any further, Wes, I'm kind of embarrassed. Adam, we should have made an introduction when we got started today. Do you want to make an introduction of someone sitting in the back?
I think we should.
Yeah.
You know, we thought about, some big embarrassing way to do this, but Charlene, come up. So we have had a vacant position, economic development and housing, in the city for a couple of months. Our previous economic development director went on to Washington City, actually. We love him, but we do still hold that against him a little bit. And we have finally found somebody that we think is going to do a fantastic job for the city of St. George to represent us in our economic development efforts. And I'm excited to announce to you, or to introduce to you, Charlene Quayle. Charlene comes to us with fantastic experience with the state of Utah, with USTAR, with Dixie State. She's been a St. George resident for about 7 years, married with an 11-year-old daughter, and we love her energy. We love what she brings to our team. She sat in her first staff meeting, executive staff meeting this morning.
And she's still here.
You know, I said, hey, she came back for day 2. She started yesterday, and we're so happy to have her. Shirlane, I don't know if there's anything else. Why don't you just come to the microphone, say hi, and anything else you might want to tell us about yourself.
Hi. I am thrilled to be here. I love St. George. I love Southern Utah. And the one thing that I told Adam in the interview, he asked me what was going to set me apart in this role. And, you know, you don't know what the other candidates are, what their qualifications are. But I know that I will do this job with my heart and my soul every day, and I really am appreciative of the opportunity, and I look forward to serving the citizens of our community. So thank you for the opportunity, and I love this team.
And I would want to add something that's also very important with Shirlane's role, and that is on the housing side, that Shirlane will be helping us with SwitchPoint, with our homelessness issue. We'll be working with Councilmember Hughes on that. I think that's a role that she'll do very well in, and that's good because that's one that needs attention, and we've kind of been piecing that together where we can, but it'll be really nice to have Shirlane to fill that role for us, so we're happy about that.
And congratulations to St. George City for actually attaching the two and paying attention to it as an issue, as issues that are connected, because you can't really do one well without the other, so.
It's true. Any comments, council, or questions for Shirlane?
You know, Mayor, when she said, what sets her apart, how about that smile? I just light up the room. We
Thank
sure
you.
so much appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Well, I am really excited. You know, I went to a meeting, and Shirlane knows this, Adam knows this, went to a meeting up in Salt Lake just before Thanksgiving where I was invited. I was the only city official, but there were some legislators and then several economic development directors from various larger cities. And I called Adam after that meeting. I says, you are right. We have to get someone quick and someone really good to represent us, and we need to be at those tables. And we've talked about this, council, in other respects. We have to be. We are the 8th largest city in the state, soon to be 7th, maybe 6th, I don't know, the way things are going. But we have to be at those respective tables to make sure that we are considered. Even though we're 300 miles away, we have an economic engine here that is strong and growing, and we've got to make sure that we're remembered, right? And that we're at the table to help make decisions at the state and local level. So I am really excited. Adam, I think Shirlane is a fantastic choice. I've had a chance to interview her before and work with her in her previous roles, and I'm just really excited to have you, Shirlane. Thank you for being part of the team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome. And we've got a press release announcing her hire that will go out most likely tomorrow morning.
Shortly. Very good. And thank you, Shirlane, and thanks for being here tonight. Sorry we didn't do that sooner, but, you know, I'm just kind of slow. Also, I just want to mention before everyone's gone, and while we're at a breaking point here, the council is aware of this, but the city of St. George made a decision. Adam and I did this kind of an executive decision that's been subsequently okayed by the council. But the city of St. George, Washington County, the state of Utah Tourism Department, and the Zion National Park Forever Project Foundation have undergone a four-way split of temporarily making it possible to keep Zion National Park open for another week. With the issues of the partial government shutdown, it's left our national parks in some pretty difficult situations. The state as well as the Zion Park Foundation have together kept it open through this Saturday, but then there will be no funding to keep it open, and such services as restrooms, trash collection, some very basic services, of which I don't have a complete list, but we will tomorrow morning. We have said, look, this is significant to us. It's important to us to make sure that we maintain at least some basic level and keep that park open. And so we are doing our part to help. We think that's important to us for many reasons, but of course, the least of which is not our businesses here, our restaurants and hotels who are housing people that have made plans to come to the park even during the off-season. I think we call this off-season. It's slightly less busy. But so we've done that. It's only for a week. It authorizes or enables the National Park System to at least remain partially open in Zion National Park until the 12th of January. So we're doing this through our economic development funds. We had some excess funds there, so we don't have to make any changes to our budget at this point. But Council, just wanted to let you, or you knew about it, but just wanted to let the public know. And please highlight that as you can, that the park is open. Not all the national parks are. This one is open because of this rather unique short-term partnership between those four entities. And, you know, we don't know what will happen in the next 9 or 10 days. I hope things can get resolved so that we can be up to running fully. But if not, we may be back to you, Council. I don't know. But that's important to us for many reasons. And we will have David Cordero will do some sort of press release tomorrow on that for any members of the press that are here tonight, if you want further information. Joseph.
Mayor, thank you. That's a good catch because the tourism is critical to this community, and
it is, and it's important to be a team player. I think it is important to St. George, but it's important to our region and our state. This was Adam's suggestion. I reached out to the governor's office and to the county and to the Zion Forever Project Foundation, and all were going, yeah, let's do this. So it's about $7,200 each, roughly. So that's what it takes to do bare bones services at Zion National Park. That's bare bones. It's not much, but it keeps it open. So thank you, and again, let your friends and neighbors know the park is open, at least for now. Okay, so now, meanwhile, back at the ranch, are we on 13?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a request to consider approval of a preliminary plat for Desert Color Town Center Phase 2. Is a preliminary plat for a one-lot commercial subdivision located at Black Mountain Drive just east of I-15. Zone is PDC. So this is the one Carol just recently did the PD amendment on, the Sullivan Building site, and then again, just having the one-lot subdivision that they're creating right there, that one-lot commercial subdivision.
Preliminary plat, any questions, Council?
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for the GAS Distomo
No,
Oil.
it's
oh, sorry.
It's a Desert Color Town Center Phase 2.
Yeah, I skipped one. Sorry.
Computer
Desert
got
Color
ahead.
Town Center Phase 2.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with a second by, was that you, Joe?
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 14 is a request to consider approval of preliminary plat for Gas Distomo Oil. The preliminary plat is for a 4-lot commercial subdivision located near the Southern Parkway and Desert Color Parkway and Black Mountain Drive. Zone is PDC. So this is right here. It's surrounded, it's kind of like an island amongst the asphalt. So you got Southern Parkway, Black Mountain Drive, and Desert Color Parkway here. They're creating a 4-lot subdivision here. Their accesses will be off of Desert Color Parkway there, and their convenience store, car wash, and 2 restaurant sites. They'll have to do cross access. As you can see, that the access for these lots is through this lot here, and then access here would be through this lot to get back to these 2 lots. So they'll have to do a cross access agreement as part of the platting process, but it's to create those 4 lots.
Questions? I think you all know where this is. This is the new street, not Astragalus.
Right.
Which one of these days we're going to get a new sign on there, huh? But I do too.
And a West with a name just like gas
know.
distillate oil.
What is it? And then four homes right in a commercial, I mean, maybe I don't understand exactly.
Oh, it's a 4-lot commercial subdivision. So
Yeah.
you're creating 4 commercial
Commercial
pads.
lots.
Oh,
Commercial
commercial,
lots.
Okay. Oh, I was
Sorry.
West
Yep.
with
just stroke over this one.
No,
Okay.
good catch. Yeah.
What I was saying, Wes, is that there was a name like gas stimulate oil, and it's commercial. Are we gonna have 18-wheelers parked there? Do you know? What? Do we have any idea?
Well, yeah, it
Gas
has the
station, isn't it?
it just is a convenience store and a car
Yeah.
wash.
Yeah.
So it's just a convenience store with
Okay.
gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a truck stop.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. The name makes it sound like it's a
Yeah.
gas distribution place, but it's not.
No, it's just a convenience store.
Any other questions on this preliminary plat? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve the preliminary plat, gas distomo oil.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with the second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 16 is a request to consider approval of a preliminary plat for the enclave at Valdera. Preliminary plat is for a 6-unit subdivision located in the Ledges development west of SR 18 and east of Petroglyph Drive. So if here's SR 18, here's your access into the west side of the Ledges development, and it's just right down here in the Valdera Estates development. It's that little piece that we call the football piece. So the request is to do these 6 units here. This is Petroglyph Drive that's already been constructed as part of the Valdera Estates development. These are the 6 units right here. Their driveways will be along the rear with access from an alleyway is their proposal. Because it is from an alleyway, their access, they'll be required to provide an additional parking stall for each unit. So they've got the 6 stalls here. Here's their amenity area, swimming pool. The ordinance does allow for primary access to a residential development from an alleyway if it's located along, if the front has adequate open space and landscaping along, on the front of it that allows for that. Otherwise, it has to be a secondary access. So their proposal is to create an amenity open space landscaped area right in here next to that pool. They will be required, if that's approved, then they would be required to make sure that the sidewalk is along this side of the road and that these have access from a sidewalk from the roadway into the front of each unit. That's part of the ordinance.
What's that, it's too small on here, right there.
This? This was a detention basin that was installed as part of the Valdera Estates subdivision, so all the drainage is collected here and then taken over to this wash right there. So it'll be part of their common area. They'll have to work out an easement for this, as this isn't just common to this, it's common to the entire Valdera Estates development.
And Wes, just confirm for me that this does not allow for include short-term rentals. This is all
not at this
separate
time,
housing.
Right, hasn't been approved for that. So I guess the big one is if this meets or if you feel like this is an adequate open space fronting on a green court or open space on these 6 units.
Doesn't bother me. Any other concerns? All right, ready for motion if you're so inclined for this preliminary plat at the enclave at Valdera.
Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve the preliminary plat for the enclave at Valdera as articulated.
Have a motion by Ed and a second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 16. Who's doing this one, Sean? Are you doing this?
16.
Oh, Paula.
You're a good sport, Sean. That was good.
We don't give them a lot of choice. All right, Paula.
Are you ready?
Yep, we all have it.
Okay. As you know, we reviewed this in a work meeting not too long ago. So there aren't really any significant changes, but I'm going to go through the highlights again so that everyone here knows the crucial things that are changing, and if you have any questions, of course, jump in and ask them. All right. The first part, and what I thought I would do is just go through and refer to the line so you know what section I'm talking about. It is highlighted. I highlighted it for you on that handout I just gave you if you want to look at it. So first one we're going to go to is line 70. And this provision is where we moved all the revocation provisions, well, most of the revocation provisions, up into the general revocation provisions for all business licenses. So that the process is the same for a business license or an alcohol license, and so everything is consistent. In that process, we've set it up so that the license officer is the one who has the authority to suspend, revoke, or deny a license initially. Then that can be appealed to a hearing officer who would be designated by the city manager. That's at line 123. And then after the hearing officer hears the appeal, makes a decision on that, then they have the right to appeal to district court from there. Okay, moving on to the alcohol provisions themselves. So this would be in Chapter 3 of the Business License Code. So just to give you kind of a general idea, currently in our city ordinance, we have 8 types of alcohol licenses that people can apply for, businesses can get. By changing this, we will be going to the state code, which has 20 types of alcohol licenses. So obviously there are a lot more types of licenses available, but we will still have restrictions on some of those, and we will restrict the number of some of those so that it's not as big of an impact as you might initially think it would be.
So I have a question on that. So there'll be a quantity that can be in each category?
Yes, we're only proposing it in some categories, not all of them.
Is that the same as the state?
Yes, the state already has quotas on each category. We are going to be more restrictive in some, just like we have been in the past. We aren't really changing those quotas unless you change your mind tonight. So for now, they're the same as what they have been. So, for example,
What number are you on?
line 197. So bar establishment, before we called it a license E, a Class E license. So in order to be consistent with the state, we've changed everything to the name that the state is using for it. And what we'll actually do is they'll be applying for exactly the same thing as they do with the state, other than in some situations we ask for additional standards or requirements. So on the bar establishment license, we have a quota on that one. It's still the 20,000 per population, so that gives you about 4 at this time. They are all in use at this time, but I believe that once we restructure, that there may be 1 license that will come available as a result of redoing the licensing provisions. Excuse me. The one thing to note is that on this bar establishment license, we're requiring that the bar establishment be in a planned development zone. And that was something we had discussed at the work meeting that gives you a little bit more control over where they're located, what they look like, that sort of thing, to make sure it's compatible with the neighbors and with what's going on in any commercial zone or wherever it is that they want to go.
But the previous ones would be grandfathered?
They would, yes. Yes, they get to keep their license and stay where they're at and operate the way they are at this time. Okay, line 202 is a bar establishment in a hotel. That is a license that we have currently. It's called a Class EE license right now. So there really aren't any changes on that one. Right now we have 3 that are used, but I believe 1 more will become available after we restructure the licensing. And that again is the 20,000 per population, so there are 4 licenses available at this time. until we hit the 100,000 mark, then there will become one more available. Line 214, a bar establishment in a retail establishment. Again, it's the 20,000, so there would be 4 allowed. This is a new provision, so there would be 4 licenses available for those that meet the requirements. And there are requirements on what that retail establishment, like the size of a square footage requirement and those things, for them to have a bar establishment in the retail establishment.
So when you say 100,000, Mark, we're talking about 100,000
Square feet,
so
yes.
public, okay.
Yeah. Line 223 is a bar establishment in a historic district overlay zone. That's our C4 in the downtown area. This would allow for 4. It's based on population again at 20,000. So they would be able to have 4 bar establishments in that downtown area there. And that's in addition to the other ones. Okay?
So in theory, you could have
16.
well, no, okay. But like, let's say the new hotel is going on in Main. Because that's a hotel, they could have a bar establishment in there, and it wouldn't count on those other.
No. Just to let you know why, because they will not meet the minimum requirements of our hotel license, our bar establishment in a hotel. We require 130 guest rooms, and they're only going to have 60 guest rooms. So they would not qualify for that license, so the only one they would qualify for a bar establishment is the one in the historic district.
But
So
they
they
still,
would-
there still are other licenses that they can get. So they will
Yeah.
be able to do room service and do those, provide those services
Yes.
as they would like to do. So
And that's why I said, as we make these changes, some licenses will become available, because room service will now be under a banquet license instead of under one of these licenses. So it's going to restructure some things and make other licenses available.
Would a brewery fall under a bar establishment?
Well, a brewery typically is a tavern because it's a beer-only establishment. And no, it does not fall under that category. So we have a separate category for a tavern, so does the state. It's an on-premise beer retailer, and it's a tavern. And we actually do not allow any new taverns in the city of St. George under our current ordinance, and we're not proposing to change that, which we discussed at the work meeting.
And I just want to clarify for those that are listening that when you say brewery, you meant a brew pub, not an industrial brewery. Because that obviously would be
Yes.
allowed in our,
Yes, manufacturing, warehousing, wineries.
consuming
Those are all a
the-
separate license for production and selling, not for consumption on premises, but for a distribution setting.
Paula, just one other
Yeah.
question. On this, on the line 223,
Mm-hmm.
historic district overlay zone, is that the terminology we're going to use?
it's the current terminology, but we're
Okay.
going to change that
Okay.
when we get the final changes to Title 10, so that there's no confusion with the state law
Right.
governing
Very good.
historic.
And so we will have to come back and change this at that
Later.
time.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, where was I? Okay. At line 239 is an off-premise beer retailer. That's your C-store, grocery store, anyone who's selling beer for you to take home to consume or to take someplace else. We've added the condition that they have 1,000 square feet in their store, and that the sales, not more than 30% of the sales is from the alcohol. And we do have a quota on that, so does the state, but ours is 1,000 by population, so approximately 85 licenses are available. And right now, I think we're at about 49 on that type of license, so we still have quite a few of those available.
Is the 30% new, or is that existing?
That's new. And so is the 1,000 square feet.
Right. Thank you.
Line 247 is an on-premise banquet license. That's the one Sean referred to. That is a new provision that we're putting into our code. It's been in the state code, but that will allow, like a hotel who may not meet the room requirements, to actually have room service. Under the state law, room service is under your banquet license. That's where they have it. And so this would allow them, if they have 60 rooms and 1,000 square feet, then they would qualify to get a banquet license. There are other state requirements with that as well. Like they have to have the proper kitchen facilities and that sort of thing. So then they would be able to have room service in a hotel that meets that kind of standard. Yes?
What about, we've had a situation where we okayed for a one-time event. Is that covered somewhere in here?
We still will have a special event license, the same as the state does and the same as we always have. So that's a separate type of license from all of these ongoing or permanent licenses. Okay. Just so you're aware, there are other types of banquet license. You could have a banquet license at a facility, a sports facility, or a music concert venue. So the state does have other provisions. We didn't write any extra requirements for those other venues. We only put the provision in for hotels. So they could still get that kind of license. We just don't have any other requirements for them. They just come get a license. The normal alcohol license requirements. Okay, on-premise beer retailer, non-tavern, recreational amenity. Yes, that's what the state license calls it. This one allows for the sale of beer, because it's a beer retailer, at recreation facilities. And the state specifically lists what type of recreation facilities can have a recreational beer license. And so we've included only a partial list, mainly because we're never going to have a ski resort in manufacturing facility. So it's not their wholesale distribution, this is the retail side of it. And they do have to have a retail license from the state in order to have a store in their manufacturing facility.
So when you say we now added the 1,000 square foot, now are we in excess of what the state allows us?
We are.
So we've gone beyond that. So
We are. Yeah, we're being more restrictive on a couple of these things, just so that we can at least see if there's going to be issues. And it's easier to regulate now than later on, because then they're grandfathered in. If they're already existing and it's a problem, it's too late to deal with it from this side.
Got it.
Okay, line 483 is local consent. Oh, wait, I skipped. I was going to discuss on-premise beer tavern. We already discussed it, never mind. 483, local consent. That will be the city manager or designee that will have the right to sign the little form to give to the state that gives local consent for them to obtain their state license for the alcohol license. We're already adopting all the standards, so they either comply or they don't. And so they can sign off on that. If there's an issue, we of course can bring it.
Won't need to come to city council.
No, it will not. Yeah, so that will streamline it for the applicants and staff and able to process those. Because there's a deadline for the state. They only do their hearings on a certain day, and a lot of times it's kind of tight for people to get their paperwork done and get in for the meeting that they have to have with the state. And then line 490 is the proximity limitations. This is for your off-premise beer retailer. So again, it's the grocery store, the C-Mart, the gas station that's selling off-premise alcohol, selling you the six-pack to take home.
What about, is all of this still bind in the downtown historic district?
What, you mean the proximity? Yes, it applies. But this is only for that grocery store or retail store or gas station that's selling alcohol. So it's the off-premise retailer. But yes, they'll have to be within, they can't be any closer than 200 feet of a local community, and there's a definition of that. That's your parks and your schools and that sort of thing. So they will have to have that. Now, we only did the 200 feet by the shortest route of the pedestrian walking. We didn't do the other one that gave you longer by a going clear around the block. And we decided we'd just cut straight to it. If you're within the 200 feet in a straight line, or you're outside of that 200 feet, then you can have the license.
So with regards to that, 497 and B, how does that apply?
To what?
Line
Line
497.
497? Let me pull that up.
just right under that proximity limitations.
Oh, for the variance? That is currently in our code, and we left that in there so that if there is some extenuating type circumstance, they could appeal to the city council to ask for a waiver of that variance on it.
So how would that conflict at all with state law?
No,
not?
not on this, because state law does not regulate proximity for off-premise retailers. They do for restaurants and all those, and so they don't allow variances on any of those things anymore. But for the off-premise, at least for now, the city is the one that has the sole choice and decision on that.
Okay.
So you do have the right to waive that.
Good question.
Any other questions I can answer?
You know, sadly and regrettably, we just experienced the homicide that took place, and the papers cited the fact that it occurred outside the only bar in St. George. And that's how we define bars now, quite different. And that was just a beer and pool type of facility.
Yes. Yes, and the state was quick to remind me it's a tavern. It's not a bar. Bar establishment now serve all alcoholic product. Taverns serve beer only. So
And,
I stood corrected.
And all of this, we're not embracing, or we're not saying that we don't recognize that alcohol is part of what's some cultures and those that visit us partake of as they enjoy their stays here. So this is really just looking at it straight out in compliance and keeping up with what the state
Right.
has given us.
Yes, we need to be in compliance with the state, and we want to have our regulations in place to try and address safety issues and other business concerns that people might have to keep everybody functioning properly in the community.
We streamlined it as much as we could from the current ordinance. However, I will say this, and Paula's done a great job of doing this, but as she sat down with me to explain the state law over and over again, I wondered if she had gone to a tavern, because you can't understand the state law. It is very difficult to follow. So going through all of the state laws, looking at our ordinances and what we've wanted to do here in St. George, what we've done is streamlined it. We've actually, in some cases, there are more licenses available, but for those are for establishments that have shown in the past that they're responsible in how they serve their alcohol.
Good job.
Any,
Too many lawyers.
Well, it's got to be the right ones, right? If Paula were there. Thank you, Paula. Any other questions? This is a huge task. Thank you. And council, do we have a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 1 and 3, General Provisions for Business Licensing and Licensing for Alcoholic Beverages?
So moved.
Have a motion by Betty and a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion?
Betty made that motion?
Betty made the motion.
Okay.
All in favor,
It's a
starting
free
with
country.
Betty, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again, everyone involved. And now I get to sign a stack of stuff. Let's see, anything else? I don't have any appointments. I will mention to you, council, city manager and I have been talking a little bit about several different commissions and boards. We have a number that need to be either reappointed or is going to be the case. I'm going to suggest that we actually advertise in the future for open positions on boards and commissions, and let people from the public apply for those, and we go through a little different process just to open it up a little bit more. Then I will still, the appointment will still come as a suggestion from the mayor, nominated if you will, but appointed by the council as normal. But we do have several, even on the planning commission, that need two or three, three I believe. So that's coming soon. We'll have probably a number of new appointments that we'll need to be making in subsequent meetings.
Good idea, Mayor.
Well, we need to be moving in those directions, I think. Let's see. Adam, do we have need, or Sean, closed meeting?
No need for a closed
Good.
meeting. And Mayor, I apologize. I didn't see Brenda over there. Brenda Hatch, our license officer, business license officer. She also worked
Had a
with
lot
us
to do with
on
this.
this and with Paula closely, and she and Paula worked closely together.
Thank you,
and so
Brenda.
it took a lot of effort on both their parts to come up with this new ordinance.
Thanks very much.
You want these back, Sean, till final, or?
No, it's okay. Any reports from the council, city manager, city attorney? Any reports we have?
We are finalizing our monthly administrative report. We'll have that out most likely on Monday, but a lot of information in there for you.
Just a reminder, Economic Summit next Thursday. I believe those of you that are going are already ticketed. Is that right? All of us? Okay. So you've got information on that. We will have a work meeting next Thursday at 4 o'clock. So we'll see you then. Also, remember, Adam, what is that date? Is it February for our budget work meeting? 14th of February. I think that's Valentine's Day.
It is.
And we will start at 8 a.m. and go till, roughly 3. We will not have a work meeting that night. That will be our work meeting.
February, what date?
14th.
Yeah. Are you missing it?
Oh, no, I
Oh.
just thinking, I thought that I was going to get out.
No,
we will have you home by then.
We will notify your spouses. Okay, excellent. That meeting will be held off-site at Dixie Technical College, so we'll give you more information there, but that'll be nice to be up there. They've generously offered that, and we will have some, light breakfast and some lunch. 8 o'clock in the morning till roughly 3 o'clock. We'll try not to go longer than that. State of the City, February 6th at noon at Dixie State University Gardner Ballroom, the Gardner Center. That is public as well as chamber event. Public can come if they don't want to buy lunch. They don't have to. So that's February 6th. Remember that Local Officials Day up at the Capitol Council, for any of you that are registered to go to that, that's on the 30th of this month. So we got a lot of stuff going on. Welcome to a new year, right? That's on the 30th. You might have, yeah. So talk to Christina if you still would like to come. Joe. Joe. Jimmy, anything?
Just our DTEC transportation meeting. We
How'd it go?
had a lively, fun meeting. We'll talk about some of the conversation there, get you all up to speed on all that fun stuff about
Transportation.
first quarter, second quarter, third quarter,
Fourth
whatever.
quarter, yeah.
The legislature's actions or inaction, whatever you want to call it, on gas tax. So we'll talk about that in the future. But it was a good meeting. Nothing really besides that.
Glad you could go. Thank you.
I do remind me, Mayor, that I have a name to submit to you for consideration for the St. George Housing Authority for our resident. We have to have a resident from the Dixie Sun Manor on the board, and our current resident, Connie, she's just have some health issues that she's needing to resign.
Been on it for a long time.
A long time.
She's been great.
Yeah, very good. She's been very good, but I do have a name to submit to you, so
Okay.
you can do that.
We
So
can
don't
do
forget
that.
that.
Betty?
I just need to say that the arts activities and events during the Christmas season were unbelievably amazing. And if you even got one or two of them, there were so many that sometimes there were 3 or 4 a night. But it was, all of our venues were full, and they were all fabulous. Especially the art museums. I don't know the name of it. I can't remember. Event where they had the St. George Opera participating. It was really, really lovely.
Wish I could have been there. It
Yes.
sounded like a great event.
Yeah, so it was great. And we do have a name also that we've submitted for the Arts Commission.
I think I saw that in my email, huh? Okay. Very good. Joe, anything?
The only
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That's next Saturday, the 12th. At 12, from 12 to 2 at the social hall. And so, yes, Mark and David will be advertising the heck out of that. And if the public can't come to that, of course, there are other things. I believe Suntran is going to be free again that day for anyone that wants to save the fuss and ride the bus. And also the Sand Hollow Aquatic Center will be, I believe, free that day. Is that right? And the rec center. So that's, and the art museum. So lots of city opportunities that day. 157 years young, huh? So that, thank you, Joe, for bringing that up. There's just so many things right now. So that is January 12th.
And Mayor, I forgot to thank the Recreation Leisure Service Department for the Polar Express. I don't know if any of you made
Heard
it over
it was
to
great.
that.
I didn't. But.
Well, the last minute, and they made accommodation. It was very, very sweet, and we went. But the thing that was amazing was the, I don't know, the atmosphere. It was cold and winter, but after the children rode the train, which was delightful, they were just playing. It was in the cold and the winter, all lit up dark. It was better than Disneyland.
Great lights over there, including the red lava lights coming off the volcano, right? And yeah, that was really neat. And appreciate park staff. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate park staff for all the holiday lights downtown.
Oh, yes,
And
all of it.
and the spider. I love the spiders decorations. Even if you love or don't love the spider, isn't it fun seeing with the Santa hat on and
It was just
all
great.
the lights? Ed, did you have anything else to report on?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Very good. Sean or Adam, anything else? I kind of skipped over you guys quick. Anything else? Oh, there's the name. Okay. All right. Need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, second by Betty. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. See you next week.